there and welcome to Tough But True, where we look at some of the things that Jesus said that are tough, but they're still true as well. And I just want to encourage you with one of my favourite verses. I really like the way that Jesus speaks about the impossible and challenges us to believe in the impossible. And sometimes he says it quite harshly, that our lack of faith is what determines what actually doesn't happen. We're challenged to have a faith in God that can see the impossible happen. So the Tough But True verse for today is taken from Luke chapter 17, and it's verse 5 and 6. And it said, the apostles said to Jesus, "Increase our faith." And Jesus said, well, if he had the faith like the grain of mustard seed, you could say to a mulberry tree, "Be uprooted and get planted in the sea," and it would obey you. Isn't it interesting how Jesus responds to this plea from the apostles? They want their faith to increase, and they ask Jesus to make it so for them. But actually, Jesus' response wasn't to say, yes, I'll make sure your faith is increased. It's to challenge them to say, actually, if you had the faith that's as small as a mustard seed, that you could tell a tree to get up and plant itself somewhere else and it would. Isn't that a challenge to us? Jesus is not responding by saying, yes, I will increase your faith. If you pray for more faith, here we go, I'll give it. He's just saying, if your faith is tiny, you can see impossible things happen. How many of us have spoken to a tree in faith and seen it move? I guess there's not many of us at all. But Jesus' response isn't to be ignored here and not to be minimalised because of the circumstances that we face or the impossibilities that are around us. It's to encourage us that it isn't that we need more faith. It's just, I guess, like the command and the word spoken to the guy who didn't believe. He said, "Help my unbelief." Remember that verse? What is it about our faith that doesn't see these things happen, that doesn't believe that Jesus can do the impossible? I know I'm challenged by that all the time because my circumstances tend to be quite difficult. And yet if I had the faith the size of a mustard seed, I can take command over them. Maybe it's actually just about our focus. It's not about how big our faith is or our measure of faith, it's who our faith is upon. And that, I believe, is a challenge. They are asking for faith like a gift, an increase. And this is a Simonism, I know, but I wonder in this that it isn't where or how much faith we have, it is actually who we put our faith in Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. That's what it says in Hebrews. And that's what we need to do. Our focus isn't on the circumstances, it isn't on the mulberry bush, it isn't even on the mustard seed. It's on the one who is the author and perfecter of our faith. So when they said to Jesus, "Increase our faith," it was probably easier for them because the object of their faith, their focus on the one who has the authority and the supremacy, was in front of them. They didn't need an increase in their personal faith. They needed a greater revelation of who Jesus was. And I believe that's the same for all of us in this season. Don't ask for your faith to get better or for your circumstances to become easier. Change your focus. Because even if that mustard seed size faith is focused upon Jesus, you've got enough. And he is the one that we choose to focus on. In this time, choose to put your faith in Jesus and be reminded again that he said he will return, and ask that question, will he find faith on the earth? I believe that's faith in him. And we need that faith in him. Not in the gifts, not in the church, not in, well, all sorts of things. But simply in the one who is the author and perfecter of our faith. Increase our faith. Increase your view of the one we need to focus on, Jesus. If we have even a tiny bit of faith in him, the trees will leap up and plant themselves into the sea. Isn't that a challenge? Isn't that tough? But one thing it is true.
Awake my soul, awake my soul, arise and bless your name.